Hi, everybody. Carolyn Parr. I'll get back to the craftsman of Zechariah that I talked about last time. But I've got a few things that I wanted to share. I've been wanting to share for a long time. Oops, that's too dark. Um, about they're because I've read this book by Michael Heiser, the Unseen Realm. It's fascinating. He's a scholar of ancient Semitic languages. You know, I love language and word studies. I started doing those back in '76. Took a little course in Hebrew with one of the professors at Lipscomb. Anyway, I have learned my way around the Hebrew lexicon, and I love all this stuff. Anyway, recently, because of this Michael Heiser stuff I've been looking at, I've been in this book for 6 months. When you start looking at ancient, the cultures around, or the culture in which the Old Testament folks lived, the Hebrews lived among, people of other gods who worshiped other gods. And when you start looking at all that, the word just comes so much more alive. This is just one example I'm going to give you today. When we read things like, this is from a passage, Habakkuk 3:5 is the verse we're going to look at, which is has the same words in it as Psalm 91 concerning the you won't be hurt by pestilence or fever. You're familiar with that psalm, everybody. But when you realize the names of some of these Canaanite gods, which were being worshipped at the same time these books were being written. Habakkuk, this book was written, I believe, 8th century BC. When you start looking at the names of these gods and you see them in the Hebrew scriptures, it's amazing, because what's happening is God, through the Holy Spirit, is using polemic language. I mean, he is wanting to express, look, the gods are under my feet. Habakkuk 3:5. This is a whole scene of God marching up from Teman and from the Mount Paran. His glory covers the heavens. This is something like, Isaiah 63. Who is this coming up from Edom with his garments stained red? It's this whole picture of this huge entourage coming up from Edom. Same as in Song of Songs 3. Who is this coming up with pillars of smoke? That's a picture of Christ, of Yahweh, coming up from the wilderness. He's got his mighty men around him, Another one is Psalm 68, which a lot of us are familiar with. Mountains melt like wax before him. It's this beautiful picture of God marching through the earth. Okay, so this is what's going on in Habakkuk 3. And verse 5 says, before him went pestilence, and fever followed at his feet. The Hebrew words there, pestilence and fever, are words that it's the same word as the name of some Canaanite gods. For instance, let me get this correct here. Dever and Resheph are these words used here. Before him went Dever, and Resheph followed at his feet. What Habakkuk is saying is that, look, God has these Canaanite gods under his feet. Resheph is, it literally means a firebolt, but it's associated with raging heat and pestilence and fever. It's in Deuteronomy 32:24, also where you'll see it. Pestilence is how it's translated in our English Bibles. So Habakkuk is giving us a picture that following at Yahweh's feet are the gods, the Canaanite gods. And the other one, the first one, before him went pestilence. You remember how when the Lord wanted to exalt Mordecai, when the king Ahasuerus wanted to exalt Mordecai in the book of Esther, he had Haman go before him and go, here's Mordecai the Great, and proclaim the greatness of the man who comes behind. Well, this is the picture we see in Habakkuk 4:5. Before him went pestilence. Before him went this God, who the Hebrew word is dever, which is referred to also in Ugaritic texts, ancient texts, with the god Resheph, which is the next Hebrew word. Resheph followed at his feet. I love this stuff. Hope it blesses you. See you next time. Bye.